I've been seeing all of these live objection handling videos in my feed lately. It seems like they're doing pretty well on the algorithm, but behind the fancy edits and behind the word tracks, are those people actually good at handling objections? Can they really turn a prospect's no into a yes? If you don't know me, hi, my name is Christian Jack. I have been in sales for the past few years, and over the past 3 years alone, I've closed over $100 million. And I run a sales training community called the Sales Dojo. If you'd like to start a free trial, link down in the description below. Now, in this video, we're gonna be looking at 4 different objection handling videos, and I'm gonna break down what they did well, what sucked, what they can improve, and ultimately how you can learn to actually handle these objections as well. So let's get into it. All right. Let's take a look at the first one. Alrighty, here we go with Christian Pulp.
Like, would that work for you?
Like it would, but it's just like I'm just a little, I don't know.
Well, what's coming up for you, man? Like, again, like, we're on the same team here.
Like, I don't want to say scared, but I feel like I'm a bit scared. Like what if the accountability isn't there? Like I'm just like,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
And dude, I can get where you're coming from. If you just put money aside for a second,
yeah,
like, would you do it?
Yeah.
Why would you do it though?
I mean, I see, like, what you laid out, like, this would work.
Again, like, take the program out of it. Like, why would you actually invest in yourself to make sure you can make more money, you get the status and everything you're looking for?
If I don't, who's gonna do it?
Yeah. Well, why would you do it though?
So I could get better.
Right. So it just comes down to, can I make a suggestion? Because I can get you're a bit fearful.
Yeah.
Like, which do you feel like is riskier at the end of the day? Do you continue to hold on to this fear like we have been, and we continue the same cycle that we have been for the past 4 months? Or we shape this fear, we take action, we bet on ourselves, so that way we can actually change what we're doing? Like, which one do you feel like is actually riskier?
Just waiting and not taking action.
Why?
Because if that's the case, I'm just going to continue leaving, 14 grand on the table each and every single month.
Well, what happens if you continue to leave the money on the table?
Nothing good. It's just I'm staying where I am.
And how are you going to get out of staying where you're at if you don't learn the skills to actually start making the commissions and start creating urgency in your prospects?
I guess I'll never learn. But
do you want to stay in that cycle?
No.
So why right now are you choosing it?
Okay, cool. So let's go back to the beginning here, where we started. Let me find, okay. And I'm just going to run through and I'm going to pause it here and there and kind of give interjections. So here we go.
Like, would that work for you?
Like it would, but it's just like I'm just a little, I don't know.
Well, what's coming up for you, man? Like, again, like, we're on the same team here.
Okay, so that's pretty good. I like Christian's way of just, lighten the pressure. Well, what's going on? Like, tell me what's going through your head.
Like, I don't want to say scared, but I think I'm a bit scared. Like
I love it when somebody says, I don't want to say this, but I guess that. Or sometimes they even go on to use a different word. I guarantee you 100% of the time, the first word that they use is what's true, because people's brains are more powerful than you give them credit for. And so when he says, I don't want to say it's a little bit scared, that's his brain like trying to tell you, trying to verbalize what's going on. And the word that it uses is scared. That's the first word that comes to mind. And more often than not, the first one that comes to mind is the truth. So this guy's scared.
Like, what if the accountability isn't there? Like I'm just like, you know what I mean?
Now, very interesting. He's like, what if the accountability isn't there? Let's see what Christian does.
I can get where you're coming from. If you just put money aside for a second, would you?
Whoa, money aside. He didn't talk about money. He talked about accountability. I would be asking, like, what do you mean, what if the accountability isn't there? What are you actually afraid of?
Do it.
Yeah.
Why would you do it though?
Okay, so maybe Christian is trying to isolate the money and like see if he has it. That would be my guess.
I mean, I see, like, what you laid out, like, this would work.
Again, like, take the program out of it. Like, why would you actually invest in yourself to make sure you can make more money, you get the status and everything you're looking for?
Okay, so that's a good tie down. You don't want it to be about joining the program. You want it to be about investing into yourself to gain skills so that you can X and Y and Z.
If I don't, who's gonna do it?
Yeah. But why would you do it though?
So I could get better.
Right. So it just comes down to
You don't want to move on there. You want to ask, why do you want to get better? Because just getting better for the sake of getting, like, nobody wants to get better. I shouldn't say nobody. I do. And nobody wants to get better at sales for the sake of just like getting better at sales. People want to achieve an outcome. Even me, right? I love sales and I just want to get better at sales for the sake of getting better at sales. But then also there's an outcome attached to the back of it, right? This guy probably wants to make more money. This guy probably wants to go on more vacations. This guy probably wants to take care of his family better. This guy probably wants to be able to invest and save and blah, 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 blah. So just taking that as right. So it just comes and like moving on, you're totally missing something there.
Can I make a suggestion? Because I can get you're a bit fearful.
Yeah.
Like, what do you feel like?
So this guy didn't say that he was fearful. This guy said that he was scared. Use his language. Don't say, I get that you're a little bit fearful. Just say, I get that you're a little bit scared. And not only that, like there's this topic called hot words, or like NLP calls them anchors. And it's the idea of using somebody's language back to them. And it's because, you know, if you've ever heard the idea that whatever you say as a salesperson is garbage, whatever the prospect says is gospel, getting somebody to, you know, sell themselves is more powerful than you telling them what to do. This comes from that because this guy used a specific word. He used scared. And scared is not only his own language, which means that if you use it back to him, you're inducing some concepts from hypnosis and like actual trance by using people's words back to them. And it will bypass their little security guard in their brain, according to psychology. But then also, scared is more of a hot word because it has more emotional depth than fearful. Right? People don't say the word fearful in their day-to-day lives. People don't use the word only salespeople use the word fearful. Right? Nobody, you know, sees a tiger and they're like, "Oh, I'm fearful." They say, "No, I'm scared." Scared has more of an emotional impact. So not only should you use it because of that, but also because this prospect used the word scared to describe themselves. So therefore, you should use just those words back to them. So we're already missing a lot here, but I do like how Christian opened the objection handling by just depressurizing, sitting back, taking a glass of water, like, dude, tell me what's going on. We're on the same team. Like, I'm here to help. What's going through your head? That's fantastic. But then once he actually got into the objection handling, like just a minute in, there's already a lot of red flags. So definitely some things to shift, but I do like the energy that Christian is bringing. All right, so let's move on to the next one. It's going to be Jeremy Mine.
Just out of respect for my wife, I gotta just talk to my wife first about that.
Yeah.
If that's okay.
Yeah, no.
Okay, who are you on?
This guy, I mean, he's trying to get some sales in for marketing.
What's your name? What's your name?
Hello?
Yeah, it's Herodias Minor. Who's this?
Hey, this is
Yeah, it's Jeremy Minor.
Jeremy.
What are you doing? Are you giving one of my reps? I need to talk with my spouse. Objection.
Well, bro, come on. It's out of respect. I'm trying to keep happy wife, happy life, right?
So I already love this. Jeremy knows more about sales than most people give him credit for. And he's actually quite good at sales, better than most people even realize. I'm not going to go into all of the depth of what just happened, but Jeremy is a pro at this. He's using his status because he's like obviously the influencer. If the person's on the phone with one of his reps and he comes on like ultimate authority, ultimate status. The guy's been following him for a while. He wants training from him. Like that's not a lot of salespeople can come on the phone and do that. Right. So Jeremy's using that to his advantage. He's also breaking the ice, like you said, and just like trying to get a little bit of script breaking, but then also he's breaking the fourth wall, right? This is something that sales trainers will do all the time. And it's something that you got to look out for in these videos because most of the time you can't really break the fourth wall on a normal sales call with normal prospects. But if you are, for example, a sales trainer on a sales call with a salesperson looking to get better at sales and they give you an objection, you can literally just call that out. You can have them handle their own objection. You can have them talk about how they would handle their prospect's objection if they gave it to them. And so all that he's doing is he's like knocking on that fourth wall, if you will, and saying, you know, are you really giving my rep a spouse objection here? Like what's going on? And he's doing it in a playful tone. So it goes really well. So let's see what happens next.
Yeah, for sure. Everybody wants to keep their spouse happy. What's the what industry are you in? You can always get back to her later. What industry are you in?
Yeah, I'm in like video marketing, so we do like video productions and social media content for people.
I don't know if you just caught that, but he said you can get back to her later. I don't know if he was purposefully making that ambiguous, if he was talking about the rep that the guy was on the phone with, or if he was talking about the guy's wife. notice he just kind of dropped it and moved on without paying any attention to it. And so if the guy doesn't object right there, then the way the brain works is his brain is actually accepting that as an embedded command. So it's very interesting.
Is that your own business?
Yeah.
Okay, and what were you hoping could happen by possibly working with us and training you?
I'll just get my clothes right up. Probably closing not as many as I'd like. I mean, we're doing decent.
Not as many as you like?
Yeah, not as many.
Good probe.
We're still doing good.
Okay. And she just okay, so I'm looking here. Okay, so I got a note here that you're making around $7,000 a month.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, where you want skill level? Obviously, that affects your, what you're gonna make. Where are you really wanting to be at? Like once you have the right training, and like I said, you can always get back to it later.
So about 25K a month.
See, he dropped it again, and again, you can always get back to her later.
Oh, 25. Okay, 25 is the goal. So
Good. He just established a gap. Fantastic.
So how does your so what's the math? 25 minus 6, so you're losing. You got a calculator on your phone? 25 minus.
I do the same exact thing because I learned it from him. Absolutely. Just be the confused person here for a second. Don't be good at math. Of course, he knows he's losing 19 grand a month, but he needs the prospect to say it. It's more powerful if the prospect says it than you. So even if you're good at math, even if you can put 2 and 2 together, even if you want to come across as a level of an authority, being good at math doesn't necessarily equal being an authority. It can, but not exactly. And so, again, if it's more powerful for the other person to say it, stop confused and allow them to tell you.
You're making 6, you want to make 25. How much, what's the gap there?
Yeah.
Is that 18, 19?
Let me pull up my calculator. So 25,000 minus 7,000.
Yeah.
So about 18,000 extra dollars a month that happening.
Okay, so you're losing 18,000 a month right now.
I guess that's how you look at it.
Well, is that how you look at it?
Good. It doesn't matter how I look at it. Do you look at it that way?
I guess.
You guess?
Good.
So
Challenge
your
him, make
spouse,
sure.
How does she feel about you losing 18,000?
So I would have done something a little bit differently right there. When he said, I guess, he was on the right track, in my opinion. I would help the prospect really internalize that through a couple of questions there instead of just moving on, because I really want him to internalize that. And then what's going to happen is he's going to accept it at a much deeper level, and it's going to expose the gap and the urgency quite a bit more. Because right now it doesn't sound like there's a ton of urgency. That's why he's going and chatting with his wife and like blah, 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 blah. So let's see what happens next.
1,000 a month, though.
She doesn't really look at it that way. She just sees that we're making 7K a month.
Yeah. Have you told her what you really want to be at?
Not really.
What's the...
Now, what you want, this is where I would make a very slight wording change. Instead of what you want to be at, I would say what you could be at. Does she understand how much you could be making? Because it's not necessarily about, like, yes, you want to do better, and like that's fine. That's a good motivator, but it brings it into a much more present tense, and it hits you a lot harder when you verbalize, I could be doing more. Instead of I want to be doing more, I could be doing more, because you realize that it's possible. And like you can want something that's not possible. I want to be able to fly. I want to be able to go and do this. I want that car that I want to be able to take vacations. But once you really internalize that it could happen, I could be doing that right now if I had just done this, right? If I had just changed that. And so I would make this very slight wording change. Instead of saying, does she know that that's what you want to be doing? Does she know that that's how much you could be making every single month right now if you just had the right skills?
Preventing you from telling her where you want to go, because if you think about it, what's the number one thing that actually causes fights in a family and actually causes divorce?
Definitely money.
A lack of money, right?
You are correct.
Yeah. So does she want you to?
That's a really tricky statement. So some people may fight back on that. Jeremy really has done enough calls so like he can probably tell the signs of where somebody's head is at. But I don't want to gamble that way. I don't want to ask somebody a leading question about a specific topic that they could have a different viewpoint on than me. I would focus on other ways to handle the spouse objection rather than like asking him about a specific view, because like that's just an opinion, right? There can be some statistics about it, but statistics can point to a million different things as the biggest cause of divorce, right? And so that was very, very, very risky to do that on Jeremy's part, but it looks like it ended up well. So anyway, Jeremy is a goat. He's obviously got a lot of skills there. I've learned from him. I know a ton of people who have as well. So props to Jeremy on this. Fantastic. Love what you're doing. All right, let's now move to this one. All right, here we go.
All right, man, let's figure out the logistics first. Like, money aside, if I gave you a duffel bag, $12,000, you can do whatever you want with it, would you do it?
Oh, yeah.
The classic duffel bag. Now, you can use this, especially with males. Males will love this. Females, not as much. So just like be very aware of this. It's much more of like a male energy to say, hey, if I gave you a duffel bag of cash, like, would you do it? Or would you use it for something else? Very simple, but not my favorite. You want to just put the money to the side, because some people, especially if they have like an A-type personality, they're going to be like questioning if I gave you a duffel bag full of cash. Like, well, you're not giving me a duffel bag full of cash, are you? So like, why are you asking? So you want to be careful. You don't want to get into that scenario. So don't use a duffel bag full of cash. Just say money aside. You don't have to complicate it more than that.
Yeah, I'd do it.
Why would you do it?
Well, because, I mean, I like the coaching.
Okay, but like the coaching aside, because let's not pretend you're going to do it for me or Jeremy, right? Like for you, like why would you do it? Like why actually acquire the skills?
Well, because I think...
Okay, cool. So he said, yes, I would do it. Why would you do it? You didn't. Again, he's just overcomplicating it. You don't need to say, well, it's not like you're doing it for me or Jeremy, but why would you do it? You just ask why, right? Oh, you would do it? Why?
I think, if I had the skills, I'd be making the money I want to make.
Which would allow you to what?
Provide for my family.
Okay, so because there's the what and there's the how, right? The what is what do we want to do, the how is how are we going to do it. Because if we're always looking at what we don't have, we can't fight our way out of a freaking paperback, right? It's like for you, bills and expenses aside, how much do you actually have saved up to like invest in yourself into the skills? That way you're able to do it for your family, like you mentioned.
Okay, so I don't know if he was purposefully using a confusion statement there, but he just basically went off on a quick rant that didn't make any sense. This is an actual topic. Again, I don't know if he was doing it on purpose or if he was just doing it on accident. Either way, I feel like it was a pretty good delivery of it, because then he asked the following question to re-engage the prospect back into the conversation. If you want to learn how to use confusion statements, I teach it all in the Sales Dojo. Link is down in the description below. It's a pretty advanced topic, so it'll take some time to get there, but it's pretty cool once you learn how to do it. Now, he did ask a financial question, so let's see where we go from here.
Like about $3,000, I'd say. About $3,000. So if we did this, I might be able to split it up, like the payment over like a payment of 2K, 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 and 2K. That way you're able to like start acquiring the skills after the first payment, and then after that you already have the skills, so it's like paying for itself. Would that be a bit easier?
Okay, so you want to be careful with this, because you get on the line of being uncompliant, right? You definitely don't want to get into any legal issues, and you don't want to be telling prospects that like, hey, you could make the second payment with what you make from working in the first month and increasing your commissions. You can question them to help them see that for themselves, but be very, very careful in doing this for yourself. I know that I've done it in the past, and as soon as I heard about this whole situation, I started transitioning from it. So like, I don't know, maybe Andres just doesn't know about compliance, but if you're running a business or if you're a sales rep in a business and you get caught with this, like, it's going to be a very hefty fine. And most sales reps don't actually have the insurance that they need to have in order to protect themselves from this sort of thing. So let's be very careful with that. Overall, not terrible, but I would say Andres is doing a lot of talking and like a lot of reframing very quickly, which isn't a terrible thing if it works. The problem is it's not the most reliable way to handle objections. And so I personally am looking for the least risky, most reliable way to handle objections every single time, so that I know that I'm going to handle 99% of them as opposed to like 60% of them. So my personal viewpoint though. All right. And let's do the last one. All right, here we go with Andy Elliott beginning.
Give me the number one objection.
Let me talk to my wife.
Listen, I'm going to make it simple. If I was to talk to your wife right now, I know the number one question she's going to ask. She's going to say, hey, this is my house. I love the home. You probably don't pick out everything in the house she does. Am I correct? Yeah. Okay. Her job, her number one concern is going to be to make sure that everything gets there properly without being broken. It gets moved in properly. And everything's a smooth system. Because no matter what you pay, if it's not a smooth system, she's going to be pissed off. Am I right? So hypothetically, if we already talked to your wife and she said, let's do it, would we do it? Okay, so if I tell you that I'm going to get everything there on time, I'm going to get everything moved in, we're not going to break nothing, everything's insured, and the liability is higher than any other moving company in the world, we already know she's going to say yes. Would you agree? Okay, listen, so you're going to be the hero that's going to take all the headache out of the deal. I'm going to get this wrapped up, and you're going to call her and tell her that you did the research, you made sure that all of her stuff that she loves is going to get there safe, and you can guarantee it. If you can guarantee it, that'd probably take a lot of headache out of her. She's probably doing a lot of their heavy burden stuff right now and getting ready for this move. Would you agree?
Andy Elliot, what a fun guy. I'm gonna take this back to the beginning because like it happened so quickly, but I'm gonna show you some good things that he's doing as well as some things that maybe I would change. So let's go back to the very beginning here.
Give me the number one objection.
Let me talk to my wife.
All right, so it sounds like this guy is running a moving company, moving houses and like, you know, helping people move all of their stuff, which is fantastic business. Love it. I hire moving companies, and it's definitely a big concern with a lot of stuff in our house. It's very breakable and very expensive. Like we want to make sure that it gets moved properly and that we don't have any headache of things breaking, and you know, liability insurance is a big deal. So let's see step by step.
Listen, I'm going to make it simple. If I was to talk to your wife right now, I know the number one question she's going to ask.
Okay, so Andy Elliot said, if I'm to talk to your wife right now, I know the number one question she's going to ask. Got to be very careful with this, but it's fairly easy to use this and get people to lean in and accept your leadership if they see you as an authority with higher level status and they kind of defer to you, if that makes sense. So you want to be very careful doing this, but it can work well. So let's see where he goes.
She's going to say, hey, this is my house. I love the home. You probably don't pick out everything in the house she does. Am I correct? Yeah.
Okay, cool. So again, this can work if you read your prospect well. If they don't seem like the type of person to pick out things in the house, if they seem like they're fairly, you know, more alpha energy type male, like they don't want to pick out all the stuff in the house. They want to just like do their work and then come home and plop in front of the TV or whatever. Like, you know, you can kind of read somebody on that. And so I think Andy is probably doing some of that, and that's just the life that he lives anyway. So if you have a prospect who isn't that, you're already going to now have defenses up. The prospect's going to be like, well, no, not at all. So you got to be very careful with that, but let's see where he goes next.
Okay, her job, her number one concern is going to be make sure that everything gets there properly without being broken. It gets moved in properly, and everything's a smooth system. Because no matter.
All right, cool. So those are all the reasons that anybody hires a moving company anyway. So he's not saying anything out of the blue. He's saying what has already been accepted on the call earlier, right? So earlier on the call, he probably talked about the person with, or he talked with the person about, you know, what are the main concerns about moving? Why are they looking for a moving company as opposed to just doing their own? All those sorts of things come into play. And so he's just recapping all of that and saying that that's going to be the biggest concern that the wife has, because it's the biggest concern that this guy has, and likely he and his wife have the same views on moving. So very, very simple. Nothing too crazy there. Let's see what happens next.
No matter what you pay, if it's not a smooth system, she's going to be pissed off. Am I right?
No matter what you pay, if it's not a smooth system, she's going to be pissed. Of course, right? Because that's like the biggest thing. He's going to results-based thinking instead of cost-based thinking. This is a fantastic reframe because lots of people get caught up in the upfront cost and they don't even think about the long-term cost. Right? I call this price versus cost. What is the upfront price versus what is the long-term cost if things don't go well, or versus if things do go well, what's the opportunity cost? All those sorts of things. So fantastic reframing from upfront price to back-end cost.
So hypothetically, if we already talked to your wife and she said...
Hypothetically, never use it. Never use hypothetically. Like this is terrible. Again, if you have a bit of a pushover as the prospect, they'll go with it. And it's the reason that a lot of these like sales gurus will teach it online, because honestly, a lot of their students are like just kind of pushovers. And so they can say hypothetically, and it's also because they have really high status and they're talking to their students, right? So hypothetically, don't use it. All right. Real world, do not use the word hypothetically.
Let's do it. Would we do it?
So just ask, right? Just ask. Don't even say hypothetically. Just say, so if your wife were to say that she wanted to do this, would you want to do this? All that Andy's doing here is he's taking the ownership and the responsibility from the wife to this guy. So he's checking like, okay, so if the wife were to say yes, what do you say? Because it doesn't matter about the wife right now, because we're not on the call with the wife. I need to know about this guy. Because if this guy isn't sold and he goes to talk to his wife about this and his wife has a million questions for him, what do you think is going to happen? He's going to get less and less sold with every question that his wife asks. And especially if he's a bit of a pushover and his wife is a little bit more alpha, then like that conversation is not going to go well. So you have to gauge how sold is this person that I'm talking to really on this. If it were just up to them, what would they do? Why would they do it? How convicted are they about it? How convinced are they that this is the right move? So fantastic way to do this by Andy.
So if I tell you that I'm going to get everything there on time, I'm going to get everything moved in, we're not going to break nothing, everything's insured, and the liability is higher than any other moving company in the world, we already know she's going to say yes. Would you agree?
Okay, so fantastic use of tying in everything into the process. Andy is one of the best people that I've seen at this, and honestly, I take from his training on this personally. Anytime that you are doing the tie downs, anytime that you're using scale of 1 to 10, anytime that you are going for a close, like you want to remind the person of all the reasons that they want to do this very, very quickly, just one after another. It can be, pushing away from the problems and the pains that they have in their life by reminding them of what they don't want. And it can also be aligning with what they do want and all the goals that they have and the feelings that come along with that. And just anchoring that, framing the question with all of those things. And then he goes for, would you agree? Like, of course we're going to agree because we're just repeating back everything that the person has said before. So why would they disagree with what they've said in the past, right? Something called the consistency bias. It's pretty cool.
Would you agree? Yeah. Okay, listen, so you're going to be the hero that's going to take all the headache out of the deal. I'm going to get this wrapped up.
Now, is very careful here. He's going for an assumptive close, but you can't just assume. Like anybody that's not a pushover, they're going to come back to their original objection. They're like, Andy said, so you're going to be the hero of this story and get this wrapped up. I'm going to go and do this. The objection still isn't handled at all. Like it's absolutely still there. We've anchored why he should do this, and we've anchored like how this is going to be helpful. And we've anchored that, if she's on board, are you on board? Yes. But we still haven't actually handled the concern. And so this is a big thing that I've seen with a lot of Andy's training. Again, I've taken fantastic things from his training, but then also on the other side, I think that a lot of what he does is this, where, he has a very strong frame. He's a very strong guy, very likable, very fun, very friendly. And so naturally he attracts a certain type of person as a prospect. And generally you can kind of just like steamroll those people. But personally, I don't want to do that. Even if you can, I don't think that it's right. So I don't know, up to you to make your own decisions and your own thoughts. But if you'd like to learn how I actually go about handling objections, I've got a ton of videos here on YouTube. And then of course, I've got the Sales Dojo linked down in the description below. You can join for 7 days for free, get a ton of training. If you like it, great. If you don't, no risk, only upside. So try it out and I'll see you there.